You ever been watching a show and just thought, hey, where the hell did that character go? Well, JJK is absolutely no stranger to making its characters disappear. You have a story like JJK spanning over, 1,000 years, it's bound to forget about some characters. Sometimes it is for a narrative reason and it makes sense, but a lot of the times there's just too many characters to go around and not enough screen time to show them all. So in today's video, I want to talk about JJK's missing characters and why the character was missing and if it made sense or if Gege literally just forgot about them. So the first character I want to talk about is Satoru Gojo. Everyone knows this fine gentleman. And for better or for worse, he is the strongest modern sorcerer, which means just him existing in the story caused a lot of issues for the villains and meant he had to be removed for the narrative to continue. Spoiler alert for the rest of the video. So in the manga, in chapter 90, Gojo is sealed after hearing his departed best friend's voice that he had ended himself. Obviously stunned, and wouldn't you be if your dead best friend kind of showed up again and started talking to you? Gojo getting sealed is a pivotal plot point to the story. The culling games could not have happened, and none of the story could have progressed if he was still around, because he is simply too strong to be around. He would have wiped all the villains, he probably could have taken care of Sukuna when he wasn't fully powered up yet. Gojo has had fairly significant character development up to this point. A crucial arc for building his philosophy and his character is the Hidden Inventory arc, where Toji pushes Gojo to the brink of death, where he truly becomes the Honored One, defying death and achieving a state of sorcery that was truly the pinnacle of power. The betrayal of Geto also changed him in absolutely massive ways. We know the moment Gojo lost his innocence. With this arc, we can see behind the blindfold of Gojo and really get into his head. I think the placement of this arc, right before Shibuya, is vital, showing Gojo as a naive teenager who had no idea of the power he held, then showing a sensei that is truly the strongest in the modern day. Getting sealed is also a really important moment for Gojo because it shows how much he trusts the students he's brought up. He has full faith that they'll be able to rescue him in the future. Gojo was right. His students are able to unseal him in chapter 221. The events that took place in between were nothing short of apocalyptic, and many characters lost their lives. So 131 chapters, Gojo is entirely absent from the story other than a few flashbacks here and there. This is near half the entire story of JJK, and Gojo is entirely absent. He's a huge narrative point, of course, but he's physically not there, thus being our first, air quotes, missing character of JJK. The second character I want to bring up, or should I say characters, is Hakari and Urame. They both have decent screen time before the death of Gojo, with Hakari having several fights in the culling games, like my personal favorite, Kashimo vs Hakari, and Urame is scheming in the background with Kenjaku and Sukuna, and of course Urame has already been in the anime at this point. But most of the community is disappointed in the lack of screen time shown for their fight, or should I say panels given to their fight. In chapter 236, as Kashimo jumps Sukuna, Urame appears in the air with a massive block of ice, attempting to break up any jumping of her precious Sukuna. This is when Hakari swoops in to intercept. Hakari traps her in his domain. Briefly see them again in chapter 238 after Kashimo dies and their domain breaks in the sky. In chapter 245, we see a majority of what is shown for their fight. Hakari is flying through the air as Urame shoots ice at him. She freezes his arm and shatters it off. Hakari grabs her face and slams her through a skyscraper, Sukuna vs Jogo style. This is absolutely brutal. I really like how their techniques match up against each other. She throws an icicle through Hakari, bursting his intestines everywhere as she's impressed with his RCT, so he can just continue healing himself, and she's just ripping his body up. It's a stalemate matchup, pretty much. It even shows Hakari with his shoe falling off because he's healing his leg, but of course he can't heal his clothes. And oh boy, this fight's so good. I really hope we get to see more of it. They again are briefly shown in chapter 252 looking more battered. Urame tells Hakari that Sukuna has not gone all out yet. In 259, they're briefly shown again reacting to Sukuna's new domain in Fuga, and in 268, their battle finally ends as we see them yapping with even less clothes on, which, what are they doing here? Urame fades away, realizing Sukuna lost. Their fight was almost entirely off-screen, and we really did miss out on an epic fight. My guess is the anime will end up extending this, but these are two missing characters. I mean, we didn't see them at all. It was a big meme as the chapters were coming out, but it was true. I mean, they would just go missing for 10 chapters at a time, 9 chapters at a time, and we just didn't know what was going on with them. People thought they got married and had kids, and obviously they didn't, as we learned in chapter 268, but it just sucks we didn't get to see more of this. So these two I consider missing characters. The next missing character is pretty relevant to recent chapters as well. Of course, I'm talking about Nobara. She was assumed dead after her eye exploded out of her head in chapter 125. There were signs of hope after Nida arrived and put his technique on her not long after the injury occurred, although pretty much no mention of her between chapter 125 and her epic return in chapter 267. As much as I love seeing Nobara return, there are 142 chapters that she was out of commission, thus leaving pretty much no development for her character. She had some pretty epic fights with Yuji before, and I would have loved to see her have some solo fights in the Culling games, or just more character development in general, but nothing will make me hate the decision of bringing her back, because Yuji needed someone to come back. I mean, he lost so many people in this fight, and seeing him, Nobara, and Megami back together really, really makes me happy. So, you know, love to see her back, but there's a lot of missed potential here, and I feel like Gege was planning more with Nobara, but maybe he had to end the story quicker than he was originally planning and just brought her back sooner. But glad to see her back. She just was a missing character for half the manga. Another missing character who reappeared during the Sukuna Gauntlet was Todo. Of course, we lost Todo for a while after his hand was severed in the Mahito fight in Shibuya. So Todo last appears in chapter 132 after his hand's cut off, and then he reappears in chapter 259, again to help Yuji against Sukuna. And between then, there was little to no mention of Todo. I know he was probably injured because he was trying to figure out how to use Boogie Woogie again with his hand being cut off and all, but it would have been great to see him have a Culling game fight, kind of like Nobara. They were just gone, and I think Hakari, in a way, kind of replaced Todo for a bit during the Culling games. Of course, they're very different, but feels similar to Nobara in that these characters are so important to the main character, to Yuji, that they probably should have been around when they were just, you know, missing for so long. And it's all because of Shibuya. They were both injured in Shibuya, and they did not recover for a really long time. But we're, you know, again, really happy to see them back. I shouldn't be complaining that they came back. I'm not. I'm just complaining about, you know, not seeing them enough. I love these characters and wish we could have seen them more. So the characters I brought up at this point in the video were actually missing. I consider them all missing characters, but I want to briefly bring up some more. I think that Kenjaku's death was a bit premature. Literally 1,000 years of setup, and bro fumbled so bad. I feel like there was definitely more that Gege could have brought to the table, like the merger interactions with Yuji, you know, he's his mother and all, and explaining his anti-gravity technique. I want to bring up Toge as well. He was a character that didn't really have much to do. He also got injured in Shibuya and didn't really show up again. Outside of assisting with the unsealing of Gojo and his Dwayne Wade-esque assist to Yudajo, he did not really have much to do in the fight with Sukuna. It would have been nice to see him get an Ino-like role in the fight, so kind of a support role. I think the same can be said about Panda, although he had some plot points during the Culling games, which I liked. And Maki was involved in the Sukuna showdown, but I feel like the Yuta team-up was something everyone was expecting and wanted, and of course it never came. So these are some of Jujutsu Kaisen's missing characters. Let me know who you think I missed. There are plenty of characters that could potentially be on this list, but I think for the most part, these are the big ones that stuck out to me. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you spending time here today, and I look forward to yapping to you again in the future. So thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.